Well, I've heard a lot of cam talk on YouTube, and every day you're hearing this guy talk about picking cams, and then you'll be scrolling, then you hear another guy talk about how he picks a cam. And most of these people have very good ideas, and some are experts, and some are not experts, and they think they are. And then you have one guy, he is the guru with his formula. And if you don't go by his formula, you're totally wrong. So they all talk about their different methods of how they pick a camshaft and the reasons why they do it. But out of all these guys I've heard talk about picking a camshaft, I haven't heard one person say anything about something I take into consideration when I pick a cam out for a car. And that is something that is long forgotten, it seems like. But does anybody consider this when picking a camshaft? If you're going to have a automatic transmission or a stick shift transmission, manual. Back in the day, that was something to be considered, because if you pick an aggressive cam with a lot of duration, chances are if you put that into a car that is not set up for a manual transmission, like say if you take a pretty radical strip type cam, street strip, let's say we use my friend's car for example. He had a Maverick, and it ran mid 11s, but the car had 538 gears on it, and it was tubbed out, but it had a 32-inch tall tire. So if you do the math, the tire size, the revolutions, it brings that down to basically probably somewhere in the 411, 430 zone, maybe 456 zone in there. You'd have to do the math. I didn't start out with this video thinking about going that way with all this, but my point is this: he took that same camshaft out of his race car and put it into a street car that was going to be street strip, and he did almost everything the same, all but it had a tiny bit less gear, and it was a automatic with a pretty nice converter, tall speed, pretty nice converter, 4,000 whatever, 4,500. So long story short, the gear ratio works out about the same with the tire size he had on that car, from what he had said. Because he was a smart guy, he considered all this stuff, except for he thought, well, I'll just use the same cam, being as I have it. That's the way his thinking probably was, the way I see it, And so anyway, that car wound up running like I believe 1350s, and he's like, "Wow, what's wrong with this thing?" Yet he's a smart guy. He races all the time. His uncle had the speed shop and the whole 9 yards. The whole family was racers, and he didn't think that camshaft was the problem. He started thinking it's because, well, it's an automatic. It just slowed it down that much. And all these years later, this is back in the 70s, and I'm thinking to myself, or early 80s, I'm thinking to myself, how do you not know that that's because you use that aggressive cam behind the automatic? And you could even hear the different tone in the engine from where he had that in the other engine with the stick behind it, and then it modeled it right out. The cam, it sounded completely different, that engine did. And the engines were done the same, as far as like the heads being ported the same and all that. It was all Ford cast iron junk. So that's what we had back in the day. But that's just one example. My point is this: there's a lot to consider when picking a camshaft. And if you're low compression and you try to go too radical with the duration, and you have an automatic car, a little street car, and you're not really planning on putting a converter in it and things like that, and you start looking at these camshafts and they're up on duration a little bit, then you're going to wind up having a dog. And you always got to keep in mind vacuum, if you have power brakes. There's a lot of things you have to find out before you just say, "Hello, Mr. Speed Shop, could you send me this camshaft?" So you don't want to just see something and grab it. You want to do your homework. Back in the day, you could buy a camshaft for $64, $49.95. One of the deals were back in my day, like through one of the magazines. And but now it's not that way. Now you have to pay $300 or $400 for a camshaft. I just looked up my cam that I bought for the 460. I bought it used, but it wound up being the one that I wanted back in the day. And it happened to be the same camshaft that I actually would have bought new, and I bought it used. But I just looked that camshaft up. That thing is $350 or $60 for that camshaft. And it's just it's not a roller cam. It's just a it's just a regular comp cam. But that surprised me when I saw how much that cam jumped up from where it was. I mean, the last time I priced that thing, it was like $190 or something like that. So, but everything's going up. But that's just how things are now. I mean, but anyway, I just wanted to give my little 2 cents on this cam talk that everybody's doing, because everybody, they put all their technical talk on all this stuff, and yet you don't hear something as basic as, is it going to be an automatic car or a stick shift car? You're going to be coming out of the hole 6,000 or to the wood, to the floor, letting it fly. Only you know what kind of combination you want. And another thing, keep in consideration, is, are you going to have a power adder? So these are things you have to be very cautious if you're going to buy a brand new camshaft. And you don't want to put, the worst you're going to do is to buy a cam and put it in your vehicle and then have it be a dog. That's, you're putting a camshaft in there to make the car full potential, hopefully. And that's where all this talk comes into play. Everybody, they think that they're the man. And another debate is this: you always feel left out if you don't have the top of the line. Like, you'll talk to a guy and he'll say, "Well, I can do a custom cam." Well, here's the problem you have with that. If that guy doesn't do that for a living and he's not up to date on everything, he could give you a custom cam that's not going to be the best choice, because you're dealing with somebody that he's using his opinion and his formula on. Here's another thing. I can take a camshaft and have that degree done a certain way and make it work in most applications within reason. That's one of the things I played with to a certain extent. I mean, if you have an 8-to-1 compression engine, you have a camshaft that's calling for 11-to-1, then you're not going to make it work regardless. That's just nonsense. But within reason. Like, if I had an engine and it had like 9-to-1 in it, and the camshaft, I found somebody had a cam. "Hey, Terry, I'll sell you this cam," which we've done, which we have at the house right now, and it calls for 10-to-1 compression. I might take a chance and use it if it's like a good deal, and I already have it sitting around. I'm not out anything but time, so it all depends on if you feel like messing with stuff like that. But it's a pain if you're able to do your own work, ripping the engine apart and Intake gaskets are not cheap anymore. And some guys just use silicone, but even a tube of silicone, scraping it all back off, putting the cam in and taking everything out, it still work. Some guys don't mind doing that stuff. Other guys, it's a big deal to do that. And you might be a guy that has to hire somebody to do that for you. So it all depends on your situation and your circumstances, money-wise and all that stuff. Only you know that. But I just thought I'd give you guys the other side of a basic way of thinking with this. Instead of all the professional talk that they're doing with the cams, LSA, and all the ways that these people are debating. One guy does it his way with old school ways we did stuff. Another guy does it with ramp speeds and all this other stuff, and open and closing the events rather. And I've actually done camshafts to green them in where it kind of throw people off, and it has to do with compression. How much compression, where you get the most compression out of that cylinder is where the cam is degreed in on that kind of a line. So people don't talk about that too often either. But I will say this, degreeing a cam in is important sometimes, and it's not as important on other engines. And it all depends, like if you have a stock camshaft and you have an engine that's pretty well stock, then advancing the cam is going to wake it up a little bit in most cases. But if you retard it, it will kind of make the engine not quite as respond as good. But in most cases, it won't kill it too much. Then again, it depends if it's an automatic car with a stock converter. That's mostly on the stick shift side of things. Anytime you have an automatic behind something, if you retard the cam, most of the time, even if it's a stock cam, it will kind of take away the bottom end. So it's all stuff that you have to use common sense with. It's always going to be a matter of opinion. You can have a guy that's the best top-notch guy out there, and he could pick the cam out for you, and you can get your car down the track and get your doors blowed in by somebody that has a car down there similar to yours that has a different type cam in there, totally the opposite. So it all depends on combination and everything. You have to know what you're going to do as far as intake choices, compression, RPM band you want the car to be in, if it's just a quarter-mile car, if it's a street car. So there's a lot of variables with this stuff. So another thing I'll do, believe it or not, is even consider this. This is off topic a little bit. Even when I do head work, I want to know what that guy's doing as far as a converter, if it's an automatic car or a stick shift car. And many guys talk about that. They're like, well, a head's a head. You're just going to do the head a certain way. No. The short turn and all that stuff is, in my opinion, should be done according to what that guy's doing with that engine. And what compression it's going to be, and what power band he needs to be in, because all that stuff matters when it comes to making the most out of a head to run on the purpose you're doing the head for. Like, I asked my friend Bud when I did them LSS for him, I said, what are you looking for here? And he knew exactly. I want the car to do this. I want it to be here. I'm going to use it for the strip. I'm going to want to match my old motor. Do you think we can do that with what time it ran with my other engine? And I said, I think so. I believe we can do that. And we did it. So it all depends on the fellow doing your work, or if you're doing your own work. That's just some of the things I take in consideration when I do stuff. And I wasn't really going to do this video because I'm kind of like a little burned out from the YouTube stuff lately. I'll do another video about that some other time, but I have to actually build myself up to do these videos lately, and I'll be letting you know more about that later on, why that would be. But that's another video in itself. But anyway, I just thought I'd do this little video, give you my little spin on it. Now, I could go into more stuff and everything. You guys are probably burned out. Any guys that's on YouTube looking through the channels here and coming across all this cam talk, you're probably burned out from it. And you're going to hear a lot of the same information. You're going to hear other guys bickering back and forth. And some guys will agree, some guys won't agree, and then some guys will have two totally different ways of looking at it, come to the same conclusion. So I don't want to make a big long video about this, but I wanted to just give you a little peek of my way of thinking on it. And I mean, you can get technical with this stuff, and then sometimes you can just walk up and look at a cam catalog and say, you know what, that little cam right there is going to be good enough for my car. And it would probably run just as well if you make the right choice as somebody doing a custom grind in a lot of cases. That's as simple as I can make it. The worst cam you could have in something is a stock camshaft out of a 302, in my opinion. A stock 302 roller engine. There are worse cams than that, like in the passenger car, but in the roller 302, the camshafts are not a high performance cam. But consider this. On a little bit of nitrous, my son's going 1040s with the stock cam. That's in the quarter mile, not no eighth mile. So I always got to remember that, because this eighth mile stuff's throwing me off. Everything's eighth mile now. And I'm a quarter mile guy, and always have to stop and think, oh, wait a minute. I have to throw that in there, because if I told you 1040s in the eighth mile, you say there's no sense listening to that guy. Unless you're racing Volkswagen Beetles or something, that might be good, but, you know. But, yeah, I just want to give you my little spin on this, and not a lot to say about it, but just a little bit of my way of thinking. And I just like everybody else, I have my ways of doing stuff, and it's only my opinion. It doesn't make it right, but also don't make me wrong when our vehicles run pretty decent, and they always run the way we want them to. Knock on wood so far, and we put pretty high expectations on some of the stuff for what it is, because it's just stock stuff. So you know, that's just how I look at it. So anyway, guys, I thought I'd do this little video here, and I said little video, and it's turned into a longer video. So with that, I want to say thanks for watching, listen to me ramble, and my little 2 cents. I always want to say God bless you, and thanks for watching.